Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Morning Call. Hope you had a good weekend, and we'll hopefully get you started out to a good week here. Any questions, concerns, things going well, things going poorly, please, this is a great time to bring them up. Everybody will benefit from any questions or concerns or victories that you've had. So as I go through the pointer this week's pointer, please feel free to let Missy know if you've got some things that you want to bring up and talk about, and she'll let me know after we get done with the pointer. So the thing I want to talk about with the pointer today is how often do you guys get asked for a reference? I mean, it occurs, doesn't it? Where people say, can you give me a couple of names of people who've worked with you? Do we want to get into the habit of doing that? So let me see some answers. We want to get in the habit of doing that, guys. Is that an easy thing to deal with when they want these references? Because if you give these references out, how long before your references get tired of getting these calls or questions? No, I agree. No, no, no. So we need to be able to deal with these. But can we tell them, I mean, anything we do to tell them why we shouldn't give them a reference makes us look like we're being what? If we explain to them why we don't give out references, we look like what? Put off, exactly, Ed. We look like we're putting them off. And we don't want to look like that, so we're hiding something, exactly, Mickey. So we don't want to do that. So what I've done is I've created a script for you guys to use in which, guess who's going to tell us why we shouldn't give them a reference? Anybody want to take a wild guess on who's going to tell us why we shouldn't give them a reference? The client's going to, right, Ed? So here we go. So when they say they want a reference, the first thing we do, anytime we hear something we don't want to hear, the first thing that we do is what? Get on their side. So if you think about it, asking for a reference, I think that's a good thing to do. They should do that. It's not a bad thing to do. But it's not necessarily what we want them to do. But if I was in their shoes, I would certainly do that. I think that's a good thing for them to do. So it should be pretty easy to get on their side about this, shouldn't it? Because if you were in their shoes, wouldn't you also do this? Wouldn't you also say, can I get a few references? Sure we would. So what we're going to want to do is basically explain back to them why it's a good idea to ask for references. You're going to say, hey, that absolutely, that makes total sense to get some names of people that we've worked with for a long period of time. Because let's face it, they've known me a long time. You haven't known me for what, maybe a week. And you want to make sure everything's on the up and up. So I'm just giving you examples of things that you could say. You want to make sure everything's on the up and up. Best way is to get an actual person to speak with to find out if we're good or not. And hey, that's how I operate as well. I mean, when I'm looking for a professional, I'll ask for references too. So it makes total sense for you to ask for references. So why am I doing this, guys? Why am I getting so on their side? So let's see some answers to that. Because if I just start explaining why they shouldn't, why I'm not going to give them a reference, see, first of all, when they ask for a reference, do they know I'm just going to pop out some names, or do they think I'm going to? Yeah, exactly, Peter. To lower their defenses, everything, lower defenses, exactly right. To lower their defenses. And Mickey says, so they lose track of what I asked for. And a little bit for that, too, exactly. So I'm going to get on their side for how many minutes, guys? See how many of you have been listening to our monthly calls. How many minutes are we going to get on their side? 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Yeah, I always say shoot for 5, which means you'll end up at 3. So but I always shoot for 5. And then I'm going to say I used to give references. So I can only say this, I used to give references after I've gotten on their side. Because if they say, hey, can you give me some references? I say, I used to give references. What does that sound like then? Sounds like I'm just about to give them the put off. But if I say it after I get on their side, what does it sound like? It sounds what? Less. It's an explanation, Mickey. You're exactly right. It's an explanation. So I used to give references, and because let's face it, clients love me, so why not have them brag about me? I mean, the best way for me to bring on new clients is to have my clients, or clients I've worked with for years, who have seen what I've done, is to have them brag about me. So yeah, I mean that makes total sense. But then when I was giving out references, I started getting phone calls, and the clients were telling me they weren't comfortable with the questions they were getting from the people that I was giving them out to references to. And they were getting questions like, how much money did they have with me, and what kind of investments did they have with me, and and if you think about it, those were actually great questions. Those are great questions because they're totally valid. Because when they say, how much money do they have with me? Well, let's say that they had $500,000, but they only gave me $10,000. Is that a very good reference? Yeah, he did a great job with my $10,000, even though they have $500,000 elsewhere. Is that so I understand that's a great question because you want to know how much money does this guy have with them. Otherwise, that totally can be related to how valid the reference is. If they have $500,000 and I have all $500,000, that means a lot more than if they have $500,000 and I only have $10,000. Or if all my clients only have $10,000 and none of them are high rollers, that also tells you something. So when they were getting asked how much money did they have with me, that was a total valid question. And what kind of investments? That makes sense too. Maybe I'm a great stock picker, but I'm a lousy bond picker. Maybe I'm a great mutual fund picker, but I'm a bad annuity picker. The fact is that when they were asking what kind of investments they had, they want to make sure that I was good with the kind of investments that I was going to be recommending to them. Because can everybody be great in everything? They can't, can they? So these questions they were getting, how much money did they have with me, and what kind of investments I'd recommended, those were to them, those were totally valid questions. But if you start thinking about it, on the outside they look like totally valid questions. But when somebody's asking you how much money you have and what kind of investments you have, how does that start to make you feel? See, were my clients comfortable with these questions? Do you think my clients are comfortable with these questions? You're going to make the prospect ask this. What are they going to say? Well, no. I mean, and I love you, Mr. Prospect, but push comes to shove, who do I love more? See, and I can't really, when somebody asks me for a reference, say, well, you can ask these questions, but don't ask these questions. You can ask these questions, but you can't ask these questions. Can I really, do I have any control over what questions are asked to my clients? And what are they going to say? No. And do I want to risk making my clients uncomfortable with these kind of questions, how much money they have? And I know you wouldn't ask them that, but I just don't have any control over what you'll ask and what you won't ask, or what other people ask and what they won't ask. So, and I can't kind of make rules for you and not for other people. And besides that, making rules about what questions you can ask, that seems kind of silly, doesn't it? And do I really want to risk making my clients uncomfortable? I mean, would you want to get calls like that asking how much money you have and what kind of investments you're investing in to complete strangers? Would you want calls like that? Well, you have every right. I mean, I got to tell you, you have every single right to ask for references. And I don't blame you for asking for references. But push comes to shove, where does my loyalty need to be? Who do I need to be honorable to? Who do I need to make feel comfortable? Who do I have to be loyal to? And what are they going to say? My clients. And who do I need to make feel comfortable? I mean, I want to make you feel comfortable, don't get me wrong, but who do I really need to make feel comfortable? People who may give me their money, or people who already given me their whole life savings to guard and to manage? So I apologize. Your request for a reference is totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. And I'd love to have you as a client, because I know I could do a great job for you, but when it comes to loyalty, who do I need to be more loyal to? My existing clients or a potential client? And what are they going to say? See, then who said I shouldn't give out references? Did I tell them? Or as Jay points out, I'm putting them into my client's shoes, and they think, yeah, I guess I wouldn't want to answer those questions as well. They get it. So they're going to tell me why I shouldn't give out references. And when they tell me that it's valid, if I tell them, it's not valid. Okay? So this script is now, Missy or Tricia, can you tell me where the script is again? You know you told me, but.
Yep, it's underneath the agreement meeting. And it's not inside any folder. Yep, on the website underneath the agreement meeting.
And I think it's called, can I have a reference? Is that what it's called?
Can I have a reference?
Okay. So I would take a look at that. And again, what we're doing here is simply, they said something we don't like, we get on their side, and then we have them tell us our point of view. I can't tell them my point of view, which is, I don't want to be make my clients feel uncomfortable talking to strangers on the phone. Instead, I make them tell me that my clients wouldn't be comfortable talking to strangers on the phone. Does that make sense to everybody? So any questions on this before we move forward? Okay.
There was a question about, what about new privacy rules?
What about them?
I think the fact that,
I don't know what
I'm wondering if he's thinking that you could use that as a reason why you can't.
Guess what that sounds like? If you do that, what does it sound like, guys? Well, there's privacy rules. What does that sound like? Because really, they know that if your client was willing to talk to them, do privacy rules matter? Yeah, putting them off, putting them off. If privacy Privacy rules don't matter if your client is willing to talk to them. If I say, well, you know, I'd like to, but there's no privacy rule. There's privacy rules where I can't do that. Whether it's valid or not, is this about being valid? Now, if you can get the client to tell you that they can't, that you can't give them the references because of privacy rules, then you could absolutely use that. I think that would be really hard to get a client to tell me who's not familiar with privacy rules to tell me that. So, again, the danger that we run into as advisors is we always want to fight arguments with what? The right answer. And what do we find out about right answers? You can, guys, I made $50,000 a year for 8 years being right over and over and over and telling them how it is. You can't do that. The client has to tell you. Yeah, you win a lot of battles, right, Mickey? You win a lot of battles and lose the war. You got to get to the point where they're telling you why. And again, there's a huge point here, guys. If and I'm going to keep hammering this home, if I have a point to make, who needs to make that point? If I have a point, if I know what's going on in my brain, the client, exactly, everybody's saying they do, client, exactly, they do. So I know here the point I want to make is what? I don't want to give out references because it makes my clients uncomfortable. So I need them to tell me that. So that's what that's all about. So hopefully that helps. Any questions on this before we get on to the business at hand? No mind reading, right, Ed? There is no mind reading. The only way they know what's going on in my head is the only way I know that they know what's going on in my head, the only way I know that they know what the point I want to make is if they make the point out loud, because I can't read their minds. So if I want us to be of like minds, and guys, how often during this meeting do I want the client and I to be of like minds, that we're thinking the exact same thing? How often? Oh, I'm going to bring up one of the gentlemen here says, I offered to take the prospect to the State of Wisconsin website showing I have no claims against me. Again, what are we doing there, guys? Are we having the client tell us things, or are we trying to prove things to the client? Defensive, defending, exactly. You're trying to, guys, can you prove anything to a client? Is it possible to prove anything to a client? If it was possible to prove things to clients, how rich would we be? Because guess what we've done our whole entire career? We've proved things to clients. We've proved that our investments are better. We've proved that their investments suck. We've proved that we can save them money. We've proved that their guys do not have their best interests at heart. And what does that get us? Nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. The only person they believe is who? Who's the only person they believe? Themselves. So taking them to the website and proving, bringing up something where it shows, hey, here's privacy laws. That's proving. You cannot do that. The only person they believe is themselves. So guess what this script is about? Having them tell you why that you cannot give out references, because you don't want to make the clients feel uncomfortable, just like they themselves would not want to be uncomfortable. What has more power, proving it on a website, showing them some privacy laws, or having them realize in their own minds, in their own hearts, well, yeah, I guess I wouldn't want some stranger calling me and asking me how much money I have and what kind of investments I have them in. What's more powerful? What are they going to agree with? So this, guys, this is all about, this is core beliefs that we do here. And if you can do them, you will make more money than you know what to do with, which is the first thing is getting on their side when they say something you don't like, which we're going to really spend a lot of time with here this morning. And second of all, if you have a point to make, as Ed points out earlier, they have to make it for you because you don't know what's going on in their mind. So the only way you're going to know that you two are of like minds is if they say the same thing you're thinking. And is yes, yep, you're right. Are those, do you know then, do you know that they are thinking the same way you're thinking? No. The only way I know is if they say, Bill, I wasn't, Bill says, you know, I'm still learning, so don't yell at me. Bill, this is about everybody learning, so I'm not yelling at you. Everybody does this. Everybody as advisors want to prove things to their clients. And that's why I get all excited, because we have to stop proving things. So it's not about you, Bill. It's about everybody learning that we can't prove things to clients. They have to tell us. And when they tell us, then it's true. Okay? So what do we have one more question here. What about the phrase, Mr. Jones, let me ask you, will you become a client? Well, Jay, that's exactly what I did, only I have them telling me instead of saying, so here, this is a great point. So I have a question here today. Wouldn't it be better if we, or could we just say, Mr. Client, would you be comfortable taking calls from strangers asking you about assets and income, etc.? What would the client say? Nope. And what does that mean, guys? What does that mean when they say nope? Same thing that means when they say yep. What does it mean when they say nope, yep, what? Guys, what do nopes and yeps mean? Nothing. We don't know. May mean that they do agree with us, may mean that they don't, may mean that they're just saying whatever they want to say. It may mean that they're daydreaming. They know you're looking for a grunt, so they gave you a grunt. Yeses and nos mean nothing. What is my script about? It always ended with what? Open-ended questions or closed-ended questions? Open-ended questions or closed-ended questions? Open, open. Oh, everybody's getting open. Open, right. Because then they have to explain in their own heads. They have to have these little movies running in their own heads, explaining to themselves the point that I'm having them make. Not the point I'm making, the point they're making. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so any questions before we move on from this? But this should really help you overcome that or have the client overcome that for you. So we're going to do a tape review today. And the tape review we're going to do is on powers of attorney. Now what you're going to find, though, is it's not really about power of attorney. It's about the most important concept we teach on the system. So let's see if you guys have been listening over the past 3 or 4 months. What's the most important thing we teach on the system? What's the thing that can double or triple your income? What's the one skill you could learn that'll double or triple your income, guys? Getting on their side, Casey says. Exactly right. So I'm going to show you what happens when you don't get on people's side. Now, when I say you don't get on somebody's side, a lot of guys have a trouble grasping this because they think, well, I never argue with the client. I never yell at the client. I never throw things at the client. I never tell him he's wrong. So I don't understand why. I don't understand why we're learning this skill because I never do these things. Well, I'm going to show you how I'm going to first of all play the script. It's very short, and I want you to listen to what's going on. And then I'm going to go play it again, and I'm going to add some notes to it. So I'm just going to play it. And I want you to figure out, how is this guy doing? Because he actually does a very good job on the power of attorney script. Could he do better? Yeah, but you know what? If he would have done just how he did it here, with a few slight changes to his, I'd say, attitude, it would have been fine. But I want you to watch what happens here as I play this script. And Missy, would you tell me? I'm going to play it for a second. Tell me if you can hear it, okay?
Yep, I can hear it good.
You hear it okay? Okay.
Yep, I sure can.
So guys, I'm going to just play this. It lasts about 3 minutes. I'm going to play it through without any notes whatsoever. And I'm going to bring it back and I'm going to play it again with notes. But I want you to hear it without notes. And because when I played it for a lot of guys, they say, yeah, I think you did a pretty good job, but I can't figure out why it didn't work in the end. So here we go. So this guy is rolling into the power of attorney portion of the meeting.
If I go across the street and I get hit by a bus, there's 3 possible outcomes. I'm fairly good in shape. Let's say I just bounce off the ground and get back up and start hanging around. Do I need a power of attorney? No, not at all. If I get killed, which of those documents do I need? I need the will. The will, right. So the power of attorney is really for when we're somewhere in between. Does that make sense? Yeah. Usually if I can't sign something. So I have a client whose wife has severe MS, and she cannot write. She's quadriplegic, confined to a wheelchair. So he has power of attorney over her, and usually it's for those types of matters that relate to finances. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, let's say I have an account. You take $10,000 to your advisor, and he turns it into $100,000. How do you feel about that? I pay my dinner. You're happy about that. Why are you happy about it? Is that more money? Yeah. Which is the root of all evil. Love of money is the root of all evil. But you're right. Having is bad even. I mean, we know people got money and change. Well, look at the people who win the lottery. I don't think you can come up with 10%. Well, I know you can't come up with 10% it not you're forced or jail or not happy. Exactly right. Yeah, so you're exactly right. No, I get it. Let's say though you give another $10,000 to the advisor and he turns it into $50,000. How do you feel? It sounds like a parable, Patty.
Yeah.
The point to all this.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. It's still good. Okay, which would you rather have, the 50 or the 100? Okay, now let's say there's a catch. So what's the catch? You got a choice between the two accounts. The account with $100,000 in it, you can't get at unless it's a month that begins with an O, and it's the 31st of the month, and it has to be 75 degrees outside. Okay, that's the only time you can get at the money. The account with $50,000 in it, you can get out whenever you want to. So if you had a choice between the two accounts, which would you choose? When they can access each other. Yeah, 99% of people say that. Why would we say that? Because it's there. You can use it. Right. What good is money that we... What kind of advisor would I be if my clients came in and said, if they couldn't get out their money, if Mrs. Smith came to the door and said, hey, something bad has happened, my husband's been in a car accident, I need $15,000. And I read through her stuff and I said, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, but those circumstances don't qualify. I'm sorry, I can't give you the money. What type of advisor would you think I am? And would she be right? Yeah, probably. Yeah, she would be right. That's what concerns me about this. You don't have a power of attorney. You've already said on your joint accounts, not a problem, and you're exactly correct. You have accounts, though, that are only in your name and that are only in your name. And so if something bad happens to one of you, the other one can't get the money without that document. Does that make sense? Yeah, right.
Do you have any like that?
I don't think so. You have several like that. I'll show them, then we can go through them, but you have retirement accounts? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, no, we're based on each other's retirement accounts, though. You have a rollover, right? You have an IRA. Yeah. You have a couple of annuities. Several of them are in joint accounts. You're exactly right. But you do have some that are just in your name, and a power of attorney is what protects you from that occurrence. Does that make sense? It makes sense, but I didn't know we had anything like that. Let me just double check, but let's see if I have what I'm looking for. Okay, this is an example. This is, Patty, this is your annuity, right, your TSA. Yeah. It's just listed in her name. And that's the way it has to be, by the way. Okay, yeah, that's the way it has to be. But I mean, on the other paperwork that goes with this, I'm on it. As a beneficiary. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That makes perfect sense, okay? This is another one, same type of thing, where, Clark, you're listed here as an individual. This is your deferred comp program. Yeah. Okay? She is not. And you're exactly right. If you die, guess what she has automatic access to because you're the beneficiary? Yeah. It's not for when you're dead, though. It's for when you're living is when the issue comes into play. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah, I understand. Because the power of attorney is not for when you're, the will is for when you're dead. Okay? Well, I follow you. Okay. So make sure.
Oh, so if we got a divorce and I wanted that his money or he wanted mine.
Well, that's one way, yeah. But if you become incapacitated or if I get my stuff, you could go, if you have the partner, you could say, hey, I need that money because he wants Corvette now. Or whatever. To be very. Well, because we need money when things go right or when things go wrong. And most of the time when things go wrong is when people need the money. Here's the situation.
The point that he brought out there, we can only have after one of us dies. No. That money right there, either one. Yours you can take out, mine I can take out. Sure. I can't take it out of yours unless you're dead. Right. That's the way it is now. Right. And vice versa.
And this is where we protect you from that happening. Having a properly structured power of attorney. If something bad happens to you and you get access to the money that's in his name, you have legal access to do that. Okay. If he's still alive. And frankly, the chances of you becoming disabled or incompetent are better than you just passing away. Okay, so your will covers that. Thank you very much. Well, I'm saying it's true for all of us. Yeah, statistically speaking. I mean, does that? Okay. I mean, my question is, did any of the, you have several advisors you work with, that's fine. Did any of them ever talk to you about the necessity to have a power of attorney so that that circumstance didn't happen?
Thinking back, Paul told us. Because when they were doing theirs, he said, you better get a power of attorney.
All of that for what? Nothing. Because he said, did your advisors do this, which you're not supposed to do? Did your advisors do this? And he said, oh, yeah, I think Paul did, and I think even my other one did. Guys, how many of you want to bet $1 million whether Paul told them they should get a power of attorney and whether Paul or the other guy told them they should get power of attorney? Really? Do you think his past two advisors really told them to get powers of attorney? Guess how many advisors I've found across the country, and Jeff, how many advisors you've found across the country are telling their clients to get powers of attorney?
None.
None.
I mean, it's
So
not
what
on the radar.
What do you think the likelihood that, yeah. So what do you think, Jeff, the likelihood that both the advisors they've been with in the past have both told them to get powers of attorney?
Yeah, none.
None. So you're right. Ed says he was attacking the broker. So when you attack the broker, guess what happens? What's their knee-jerk reaction? To defend. And that's what happened. To fight back, exactly, Casey. So I'm going to play it again. Now I'm going to put my notes on here, okay? So I want to show you what happened here. It was, you know what? He did the script. That's the sad thing. He did what he needed to do. He could have done it better, and he did make a big boo-boo at the end where he did attack the broker. You're not supposed to do that, remember, with the power of attorney. You're supposed to just have them assume, well, we'll get to that in a second, but you're not supposed to attack the broker at this point, so, or really ever. So here we go. Now I'm going to, let's see, I have to get a little bit further ahead here. I'm going to listen to it again. Okay, here we go.
Well, no, you're in the cases where things are actually jointly held. You're exactly right. Okay. Here's where sometimes it comes into issue. There are three major documents that we.
Okay, so now we're going to get into here. I want you to be looking for a couple of things here. Number one, I want you to be asking, is he telling them or is he letting them tell him? And he does some of both, but guess how much I want you to do one versus the other. I want you to make them tell you all the things that you can possibly tell. And he does a little bit of it. Second thing is he making big jumps in logic? You'll see what we do is we go in what I call baby steps. We take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back to make sure they get every concept we're talking about. Also look at, is everybody on board? Is both the husband and the wife on board? Okay, but most importantly, I want you to see the disaster that can happen when you start arguing with the client. Now, would any guy who's not been indoctrinated into the 5Q system listening to this, would anybody say that he was arguing with the client? I would tell you that before people hear us talk about getting on their side, etc., most guys don't recognize that this guy is arguing with the client. Instead, they say, well, no. He's not arguing. He's just trying to help them understand, right? He's just trying to help them. He's trying to educate them. He's not trying to argue with them. Guess how many people want to be helped and educated if it's to the point of them having to admit that they're wrong? How many people like to admit that they're wrong, guys? Nobody. Nobody. So let's listen to this. So listen for how many times he argues with the client instead of getting on their side. How many times he's telling instead of letting the client tell him. How many big jumps he's taking in logic. And then also, is he got both the husband and the wife on his side? Okay? So here we go.
I recommend everybody has. You have two of them. You have the will. And it's the will for when you're living or when you're dead. When do we use the will? When you're dead. Right. Okay, so it doesn't help us at all when we're living. None of these documents, are any of these documents for when times are good? No, they're all for when times are bad. See, you're thinking insurance, huh? That's right. I mean, I'm worth a heck of a lot more when I'm not here. The financial power of attorney, though, and your medical power of attorney, are they for when you're living or when you're dead? When do they get used? Well, when you're dead or when you're incompetent. That's right. That's exactly right. In the case of what we're trying to protect against, don't sound incompetent. I don't think I can prove that yet. Well, here's the thing. I've never done this, but Frosty Valley's right across the street. Okay, not that I've ever done this. Grab my clubs and just walk across the street in the afternoon to go hit a few golf balls. If I go across the street and I get hit by a bus, there's 3 possible outcomes. You know, I'm fairly good in shape. Let's say I just bounce off the ground and get back up and start hanging around. Do I need a power of attorney? No, not at all. If I get killed, which of those documents do I need? I need the will. The will, right. So the power of attorney is really for when we're somewhere in between. Does that make sense? Yeah. Usually if I can't sign something. So I have a vegetable. Right. I have a client whose wife has severe MS. she cannot write. She is quadriplegic, confined to a wheelchair. So he has power of attorney over her, and usually it's for those types of matters that relate to finances. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's say I have an account. You take $10,000 to your advisor, and he turns it into $100,000. How do you feel about that?
I pay my dinner.
You're happy about that. Why are you happy about it?
Because I have more money.
Yeah, because
Which is the root of all evil. Go ahead.
love of money is the root of all evil. But you're right.
Having is bad even. I mean, we know people got money to change. Well, look at the people who win the lottery.
Well,
I don't think you can come up with 10%. Well, I know you can't come up with 10% that they're not good at. They only live out in forced or jail or not happy.
exactly right.
Gotcha.
No, you're exactly right. No, I get it. Let's say though you give another $10,000 to the advisor, and he turns it into $50,000. How do you feel?
It sounds like a parable, Patty.
Yeah.
The point for all that.
Yeah.
Which,
I know that.
Still good. Okay, which would you rather have, the 50 or the 100? Okay, now let's say there's a catch. So what's the catch? You got a choice between the two accounts. The account with $100,000 in it, you can't get at unless it's a month that begins with an O, and it's the 31st of the month, and it has to be 75 degrees outside. Okay, that's the only time you can get at the money. The account with $50,000 in it, you can get out whenever you want to. So if you had a choice between the two accounts, which would you choose?
When they can access it,
Yeah, 99% of people say that. Why would we say that?
because it's there. You can use it.
Right. What good is money that we? What kind of advisor would I be if my clients came in and said, if they couldn't get out their money, if Mrs. Smith came to the door and said, hey, something bad has happened. My husband's been in a car accident. I need $15,000. And I read through her stuff and I said, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, but those circumstances don't qualify. I'm sorry, I can't give you the money. What type of advisor would you think I am? And would she be right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, she would be right. That's what concerns me about this. You don't have a power of attorney. You've already said on your joint accounts, not a problem, and you're exactly correct. You have accounts, though, that are only in your name and that are only in your name. And so if something bad happens to one of you, the other one can't get the money without that document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I
Do you have any like that?
don't think so.
You have several like that. I'll show them, then we can go through them, but you have retirement accounts.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
That
no,
you-
we're basically each other's retirement accounts, though.
You have a rollover, right? You have an IRA.
Yeah.
You have a couple of annuities. Several of them are in joint account. You're exactly right. But you do have some that are just in your name, and a power of attorney is what protects you from that occurrence. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I didn't know we had any like that.
Let me just double check, but let's see if I have what I need. So this is an example. This is, Patty, this is your annuity, right, your TSA.
Yeah.
It's just listed in her name. And that's the way it has to be, by the way.
Okay, yeah, that's the way it has to be. But I mean, on the other paperwork that goes with this, I'm on it.
As a beneficiary,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense, okay? This is another one, same type of thing, where, Clark, you're listed here as an individual. This is your deferred comp program,
Yeah.
okay? She is not. And you're exactly right. If you die, guess what she has automatic access to because you're the beneficiary?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not for when you're dead, though. It's for when you're living is when the issue comes into play.
Okay, I
Does
got
that
it.
make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Because the power of attorney is not for when you're, the will is for when you're dead. Okay? Well,
I follow you.
okay. So make
Oh,
sure.
and so if we got a divorce and I wanted that his money or he wanted mine, he couldn't.
Well, that's one way, yeah. That's
That's
what
one
you're talking about. If you become incapacitated or if I get my stuff, you could go, if you have the partner, you could say, hey, I need that money because he wants Corvette now.
Or whatever.
To be very
Well, because we need money when things go right or when things go wrong.
one thing too.
And most of the time when things go wrong is when people need the money. Here's the
And also
situation.
those ones that he brought out there, we can only have after one of us dies.
No.
Those annuities?
That money right there, either one. Yours you can take out, mine I can take out.
Sure.
I can't take it out of yours unless you're dead.
Right.
That's the way it is now.
Right.
Vice versa.
And this is where we protect you from that happening. Having a properly structured power of attorney. If something bad happens to you and you need access to the money that's in his name, you have legal access to do that, okay, if he's still alive. In fact, the chances of you becoming disabled or incompetent are better than you just passing away. Okay, so your will covers that.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm saying it's true for all of us.
Yeah,
It's just statistically speaking. I mean, does that, okay. I mean, my question is, did any of the, you have several advisors you work with, that's fine. Did any of them ever talk to you about the necessity to have a power of attorney so that that circumstance didn't happen?
Thinking back, Paul told us, because when they were doing theirs, he said, you better get a power of attorney. We never did. And I think the guy from Valley might have.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So what happened here, guys? On the surface, he did what he should do. He goofed at the end by accusing the broker, but on the surface, he went through the script, right? He told the story, had them understand why you need a power of attorney, went through the 50 versus 100K, had them tell why the 50K is better. But all through this, there's arguing going on. And we start out the argument with something what? Completely silly. Completely silly. So let's look at this. What is the purpose of the POA section? To get the client to understand access to money is more important than return on money. Did that happen? Did it? No. In fact, well, in a gentle way, but one time they admitted it. Am I ever satisfied as one time? The whole point of this is to make sure they understand that, hey, getting access to money is much more important than return. Why do we do that? Because every advisor tries and promises them that they're going to get them a higher return. But how many promise that they're going to make sure they get the money when they need it most, when things are bad? We really need to hammer this point home. He did it once. Once is not enough, guys. This is a major theme. If there's a major theme to a movie, do they show it one time? No. How many times did they show major themes to movies? Over and over and over. That any financial advisor that doesn't pay extra attention is in fact a lousy FA, financial advisor. So he did do that one time, but he unwound everything when he then accused the broker later on. And to make them worry that the situation is at risk. Are they worried that their situation is at risk at this point? Did that even come up? The fact that he saw some things in their power of attorney that would not allow them to get money when they need it most. Did he say, well, that's what concerns me because I saw some things here in your power of attorney where you will not be able to get money when you need it most. And then you roll into the whole thing about what kind of advisor would I be. So they're not worried at all about their situation at this point, right? Oh, and in fact, they don't have a power of attorney, sorry. But are they later on said these two other advisors recommend they get powers of attorney. Even if that's true, which it isn't, but if it is true, has anybody then succeeded in getting them to realize how bad not having a power of attorney is? So let me ask you guys a question. Where did he muff this? And again, he covered the script, boom, 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 all the necessary parts of the script. But I'm going to show you where if all you do is walk through the script in outline form instead of story form, you can get burned. So where did he miss this? Where did they figure out or not figure out that this is a real problem to them in their situation? So I have an answer here. Mickey says, explain problems so they can get it fixed elsewhere. Yeah, well, that's true, absolutely. He did explain the problem so he can get it fixed elsewhere with because they can go anywhere to get power of attorney. But so what guys, where did he miss this where they don't get? Do you really think at a core level they're thinking, holy crap, the one thing we need to do when we leave here is get our power of attorney? Has he gotten to that point yet? Failed? That's right, Frederick. Failed the storyline of the impact of the very good, Frederick. During the story, he just told the story about, hey, if I get hit by a bus, what happens to me, and I need a what? Power of attorney. Great, let's move on to the next thing. No! That story is about them realizing if they don't have a power of attorney, the spouse is screwed mentally, emotionally, financially. And he didn't do that. He told the outline of the story. He knew he needed to tell a story, so he said, okay, I'm hit by a bus. What happens if I go in the hospital? How's my wife going to handle my affairs with power of attorney? Great, now let's move on to the rest. No. You have to say, so if I'm hit by a bus, is the will going to, three things going to happen. One is I walk away and I'm fine. Do I need a will or a power of attorney then? No. If I die, I need a what? Well, you need a will. But if I'm hurt but can't function, I need a what? Well, power of attorney. Right. So let me ask you a question. If I'm hit and I'm in that hospital, and my wife walks into that room, and she sees all the tubes and all the things, you know, the first, hopefully, I'm not sure about this, the first thing, though, she's going to be worried about who? Well, you, and are you going to be, yeah, me, and am I going to be all right? And exactly, you're right. But then when, you know, when the reality starts to set in, she starts to wonder what else. Am I going to be all right? She starts to wonder. Why would she be wondering that? Because do the bills stop, folks? Well, no. Does life stop? No. I'd like to think that the earth stops moving when I'm injured, but does the earth stop moving? No. So what does she start to be worried about? Well, the everyday things in life, yeah. And, you know, and does she need any more stress at this point in her life? Well, no, she really doesn't need it. Yeah, why not? Well, she's already blah, 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 blah. So I'm walking them through, yeah, so here's the thing. What if most of the money is in my IRA and she needs that money? Can she get it if I'm not able to function? I don't have a power of attorney. Well, I said, well, no, I guess she can't. Nope, she can't. I mean, I'd die, but, you know, maybe she's going to wish that I had died to get the money, but if she wants me to live, can she get the money? Well, no. And why can't she? Well, because she wouldn't have a power of attorney. Yeah, so now she's got what kind of stress added on? She's worried about me, but she's also worried about who? Well, herself. And why? I'm going to walk them through. They're going to have to tell me that not having a power of attorney is a very bad, bad, bad thing. Did he do that? That's right. Being a good salesman is all about telling a story. Somebody says, Frederick said, exactly. So he touched on all the things, but do you think the clients internalized any of these three things that we just talked about? He touched on all of them, but did they internalize them? That's what stories do. He touched on all of them, but do you think the clients actually internalized? No. Did she especially? Did she get it, guys? Did she get what we were talking about here? Why is it important that she gets it, especially the power of attorney or all the non-financial things? Why is it so? Because who was doing all the talking? The advisor was and the husband does, but did you think that the wife was following along, or was she a little bit lost, guys? Was the wife a little bit lost, or was she following along and knew exactly what was going on? Let's see some answers to that. She was lost. So exactly. So why is she the most important person sitting at that table to understand this? I've talked about this over and over and over. I've talked about we need to talk about the non-financial for the first 40 minutes of the meeting, and power of attorney is one of those things. Why are we spending the first 40 minutes on the non-financial stuff, guys? Who worries about the non-financial stuff? See, at every household, there's a spouse that worries about the money and takes care of the money, usually the guy, not always, but usually the guy. She's the one most affected by getting access to the money. Casey says, absolutely, that's one thing, but also think about it. One person in the family takes care of the money. The other person takes care of the what? What's the other person do? Takes care of the family. Exactly. So you're right, Casey, when you say she's the one most affected by the loss of access to the money. You're absolutely right. And everybody else saying, and she's the one who's concerned about the family. This is your opportunity to get her on your side. And I will tell you, push comes to shove, guess who's going to make the final decision whether they're moving? This guy that's in charge of the money? You think he's going to be the one that makes the final decision? You're exactly right. The wife is. So who do I need to know is on my side? Who do I need to know is getting what we're talking about? Who do I need to know is getting the consequences of this? So okay, so when mama ain't happy, nobody happy. Exactly right. She's going to be the deciding factor. So look at the advisor was so worried about being what that he wasn't worried about her understanding. The advisor was so worried about being what, he wasn't worried about her understanding. What was the advisor worried about? Being right. Being right, being right, being right. Now, is this a bad advisor? No. It's every advisor. We all want to be what? Right. You got to stop it. Stop trying to be right. Why was it important that I was right about the biblical quote versus the client? What was that all about, guys? Did you catch that? The root of all evil is having money. Oh, well, actually, the root of all evil is the desire for money. What the hell are you doing? Because look at what did that set off, guys? What did that set off in this whole conversation? Did it get any better from that point on, or did it start to fall off a cliff? It got worse and worse and worse. Do you get why this guy started to defend himself on every single point? Why? Why did this guy start to defend himself on every single point? Yeah, because he looked foolish in front. Yes, because he looked foolish. He looked foolish. So guess, if somebody makes me look foolish, how cooperative am I going to be going forward? I'm not. I'm going to fight every little thing. And then he told them the other advisors checked their powers of attorney. Guys, remember, that's not what the point here. Our point, we don't end up with accusing the other guy. Our point is, boy, not having a power of attorney can cause what kind of problems, and have them tell us all the problems, the consequences, the consequences, the consequences. Not accusing him at this point. That gets, the only time do we ever accuse him, or we just lay out the facts? So, but you see, the major point I want to make here, though, is what happened by not getting on their side. The conversation got off track. It went in the wrong direction. The clients missed the whole point that, I don't have a power of attorney, I'm screwed. You know, any advisor out there worth their 2 bits wouldn't have moved forward with any recommendations until I had this power of attorney, and I don't have one, and now I'm screwed. The first thing we need to do is get a power of attorney. If they had a power of attorney, what I want them thinking is, holy cow, my power of attorney is not working like I thought it was working. Either way, whether they have one or don't have one, they need to be desiring that thing. Do you have any smidgen of evidence here that they think they need to run out and get the power of attorney by the end of this conversation? Do you think? No, I don't know. None. Zero zippo. So guess what kind of momentum this guy has now? They're not thinking they need to go get a power of attorney. They've defended their guy. Now that they've defended their guy, guess what they're going to feel the need to keep doing? See, once they've defended their guy once, guess what they need to, they feel like that's a nail in your coffin, guys. If they defend their guy once, guess what they feel they need to do continually now? If they defend their guy just once, guys, if you're talking about whether some football player is doping, if you defend him once with your buddy, you're exactly right, Frederick, you keep defending him. If you defend this guy once, you're going to keep defending him with your buddy. Because otherwise you have to admit that you're what? Wrong. And none of us want to admit we're wrong. We'll defend all sorts of silly, stupid things rather than admit we're wrong. And this all came to play and began to come to play with this whole thing about an argument about a biblical quote. And was that the only place that this guy argued with them? I counted 4 different places in 6 minutes that this advisor argued with the client. So here's the thing, guys. Is it going the right direction? Did he get these clients? You know what? He did end up getting these clients. But did they come as easy as they could have come, do you think? They could have become a lot easier. He did. I tell you what. He's lucky on this one. He didn't earn this one. He's lucky on this one. And he did get them because of all the evidence at the end. Was they finally could not defend their guy anymore. But I tell you what, Jeff, have you seen cases in the past where the advisor has really destroyed the other advisor, but the client still stayed with them?
Yeah, I've seen cases where the advisor destroyed the other advisor. Yeah, and the client still stayed with them, absolutely.
Yeah, and why does that happen?
Because they don't believe the other advisor. They think he's bad-mouthing him because they don't believe the advisor. They don't believe you when you say that your guy is bad. Your guy isn't doing this, your guy isn't doing that, your guy isn't doing you justice. They know that you have a vested interest in saying things like that. They know in order for them to move their accounts to you, you're going to have to say things like that. And they haven't really experienced any problems. You know, like we said, they're people with money, they're people with good incomes, they're people with good lifestyles. So when you say your advisor is hiding the fact that you're overspending or that you're overtaxed or that you're not getting access to your money, that's not their experience. They have to discover these things for themselves. See, when they discover it for themselves,
Yep.
Then they don't have to believe you. It's true.
That's right. They don't, and that's the whole thing. And what we're seeing here is he allowing them to discover things for themselves, or does it seem like he's always trying to prove that his point of view is right? And why would he do that? Because he cares. Do they think that he's going to lose all this sleep if they do something wrong? Do they feel that he's going to just can't live with himself if they continue with the current situation? Do they really think that he cares that much about them? No. So the only possible, guys, think about this, the only possible reason he'd be pointing these things out, the only possible things that he'd be arguing about all of these things is why? To get their account. The only reason he'd possibly be arguing these things is to get the account. And if all he's doing is trying to get the account, why should they move from one guy who's been proven to be stealing their money to another guy who wants the same thing that their current guy has? Comes down to a known evil is better than an unknown good, and right now, are you proving that you're unknown good, or you're just like the other guy? Why would they possibly move from one guy who's a problem to another guy who's a problem? At least they know the current problem. Do you see how getting on their side, or more importantly, not getting on their side, can submarine a sale? That's why we work on getting on your side every single month. That's why I've asked you to do the 5-minute drill every single day. This should be a natural reaction that when they say something you don't agree with, the first thing you do is what? Agree. And then you agree some more, and then you agree some more, and then you agree till you actually do think the same way they think. So you climb into their shoes. And as Ed said earlier, so you are of like minds. That's a great question here, guys. How often during the 6-minute conversation were these guys of like minds? Did these guys think they were thinking the same? Or more importantly, did the client think that his advisor was thinking the exact same way that he thought? How often during that 6 minutes did that client think that his advisor was thinking the exact same way he was thinking? So what are we getting for answers here? Oh, wants to know about the 5-minute drill. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that here in a second. Zero is probably, I would say it's pretty darn close to zero. The fact is, guys, not much. I would absolutely agree with the not much. It was pretty darn close to zero. Guys, we buy from people who are what? Who do we buy from? People who think just like what? Us. 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 Yes, I buy from people who think like me. Will I ever buy from somebody who thinks the opposite way that I think? Would I ever buy from that person? Would I ever buy from somebody who I'm disagreeing with for like we pointed out here, most of the conversation? No. Do you see the importance of getting on people's side? If during this conversation the client thought the advisor agreed with them through the entire conversation, would he have been much further towards the sale? Yes. And would he still been able to make the same points he was trying to make by getting on people's side? Could he have made those same cases that he needed to make by still getting on people's side? I'm not getting any answers here. You need to understand this. I'm getting one yes. We got one no. We got most of the yeses. Absolutely you can make all the points you need to make by getting on their side. Guys that make $1 million a year, that's what they do. Because how many clients are going to give them their money if the client doesn't think that the guy's totally on his side and thinks the exact same way? None. So yes, you can make the same points by letting the client believe that they're right. Because they are right, always. Everything that this client said was absolutely right in his own mind. When he was saying that, well, no, my IRA, we have other paperwork that says if something happens to my wife, that I can take care of the IRA. Was he right? Yes, in his mind he was right because he was thinking about when he died, not when he was living. So he was right. So instead of arguing, saying, no, you're wrong, that's when you die, this is what we're talking about right now, is when you're living, could I have made that same point in a much more gentle manner without making the guy feel like an idiot? Did you see where the guy ended up apologizing? Now, most advisors, I know, Jeff, and tell me if I'm wrong, most advisors at that point, when they were right to the point where the client had to apologize for being wrong, most advisors would do what at that point?
They'd do a little jig in their head. They'd think, I did it, I scored.
They'd do a little jig in their head saying, whoa, nailed him, man. Now I'm so much further closer to the sale because I nailed him. He knows how smart I am. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Geez, if I ever get to a point where a client's apologizing to me, I'm thinking, what the heck did I do wrong? Do you guys get the importance? Do you see now in this illustration how important it is to get on people's side, not to argue. And again, most guys who aren't educated in sales, would they have said that this guy was arguing with them? They would have said, no, he's just trying to help them. He's just trying to educate them, just helping them understand. Really? No, he's trying to show he's right and the client's wrong. And how far does that get you? Nowhere. So guys, did you and then somebody want to know what the 5-minute drill is. The 5-minute drill is this. Every single day, you should do this on the drive-in. Every single day, without exception. If you're a conservative, listen to public radio. If you're a liberal, listen to talk radio. If you're neither, listen to sports radio. If you don't know what to do, pick up your paper and read your editorial. On the way into work for 5 minutes, find something that you viscerally disagree with and argue that point of view. Something you disagree with in your gut and argue that point of view for 5 minutes. If you do that drill every day for 5 minutes for a month, you'll become an expert at what we're talking about here. You will never have made this mistake that this guy made. Guess how many guys? I've been asking guys to do that for 8 years. Guess how many guys have done it for 1 month? Want to guess? I don't know, hundreds of guys I've asked to do this. In the last 8 years, how many have done? None, exactly. None. 5 minutes. Investing in yourself for 5 minutes in a skill that will make you $1 million. And the reason I'm chastising you guys is I'm throwing it out there. I'm throwing the gauntlet down. Somebody be the first person to spend a month, 5 minutes a day, arguing points of view that you disagree with. If you do that, I guarantee you'll see your production double. And Jeff, you've seen the power of this skill for the last 10 years. Am I just blowing smoke out my rear when I say that?
No, absolutely. It's a very powerful thing. I mean, we talked, I know with the group that I was with last month, we talked about if you had to choose between being really good at comebacks or good at getting on people's side, which would you choose? And unfortunately, you know, I get some hesitation. People have to think about it. And a lot of times they'll say, well, no, I'd want to be good at getting on people's side. That's the right answer. But the fact that you have to think about, the fact that you have to think about it means you haven't internalized it. And
I think here's why. All through in high school, who was the cool kid? The kid who had the great what?
Comebacks.
Yeah. The kid who had the great comeback. You're always cool for having a great comeback. You're always cool for being the right guy. You're always cool for putting that guy down and building yourself up. Guys. And then in high school, what were you looked at, Jeff, when you were that guy who was sensitive and you'd listen to people's problems and you'd help them discover their problems for themselves? That was the cool guy, right?
No, that was the wimpy guy.
So that was the guy who got punched out in the locker room, right?
Right.
So, guys, the shoe's on the other foot now. Guess who's going to be the poor guy? Guess who's going to be the poor guy in this business? The guy who's excellent at comebacks, the cool guy from the in high school who was excellent at snappy comebacks and putting people down and letting people know he was right? Or the guy that was getting toweled in the locker room who was excellent at letting other people be right? Well, you know what? The shoe's on the other foot now. It's that guy, the guy who's able to let other people be right, let other people protect their dignity, and still discover the same thing. Those are the guys that make $1 million a year. Those are the guys that double and triple their income. It's not the script. You see, because this guy did the script. Could have done it better, yeah. But he did the script, but he missed the most important part, which is what? He did the script. But what have we been telling you? Is the script the most important thing? What is the most important thing, guys? Getting on their side. That by far, not a little, by far. Because people then love you, and when they love you, they'll listen to you. And when they listen to you, they'll listen to your point of view. And if you become very good at having them even make your point of view for you, it's all over. That's when you see these guys, and you have to understand that this business we're in is either the highest paying, easiest job in the world, or the lowest paying, most difficult job in the world. And what it comes down to is your ability to check your ego at the door and let the clients be right. When you start letting the clients be right, guess how easy your job becomes? It's simple, because you never sell anymore. The client sells themselves. It's simple because you never get into a situation where there's adversarial. It's always friendly. It's simple because the money starts rolling in and you don't lose cases that were in the bag and then you lost before. It's simple when you learn this skill. The 5-minute drill every day for a month. Somebody prove that I'm wrong on this, and somebody actually be the first person to do this for a month. This is a skill. I mean, what are we talking about? 5 minutes times 30, what's that, about 2 hours. I'm asking you to practice for 2 hours spread out over a month. If you did that, you will see your income double. And I've yet to see it, so either, I don't know what the deal is, Jeff. Either they don't believe me that that's the case or believe you that that's the case. Maybe, why would people not do that 5-minute drill when it can double their income? Do you have any idea?
No, I really don't. And other than I just think they don't understand the importance of it.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know how much more I can stress. I've talked to people one-on-one. I've talked to people one-on-one on the phone. I've talked to people one-on-one looking them straight in the eye. It's the most powerful thing you can ever do for your business. Please start working on it. Okay?
Just a couple.
Okay, well, Michael, I'm going to hold you to it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say just a couple of things. The first one in clarification, yes, the 5-minute drill, you're arguing in favor of the point that you disagree with. Yes, not arguing
Don't choose something that you disagree with a little bit. Choose something you totally, viscerally, at a gut level, or disagree with. You're arguing that point of view until you actually believe or understand where that person is coming from. Yeah, thanks, Missy. Any other questions that came in there, Missy?
Just one other one. When you were doing the tape review, how do you go about at the beginning of the agreement meeting asking for their permission to record the meeting? Sure.
When you're setting the tone, when you're at the point where you normally say, we'll see if we can enhance what you've been able to accomplish. By the way, do you mind if I take notes? Instead, you're going to say, and see if we can enhance what you've been able to accomplish. By the way, do you mind if I record these meetings? Because I've got a mind like a steel civil. When I record them, I can really pay attention to what you're saying and all the nuances, and that way I'm not always scribbling things down and miss things and whatever else. It helps me go back and fill in those holes later on. Would that be okay? So that's all you do. You just, where you say, do you mind if I take notes? You say, do you mind if I record these meetings? Yeah, and Bill's right. The reason we don't want to get on people's side and do that 5-minute drill is it's basically contradictory to every sales training you've ever gone through. Because sales training is all about what? The quick comeback. Sales training is about convincing the client. Traditional sales training is about overcoming objections. No, guys, you're exactly right, Bill. You're exactly right. That's why we have such problems, because all of our traditional sales training has done everything except that. But the days of traditional sales training working are dead. People have 1,000 channels on cable TV to watch now. They've got the internet. They've got YouTube. They've got books and people. You know, and here's the point. This should really sink home. When I was I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old boy, and I have a lot of TV shows that I used to love back in the 70s. I thought they were so cool in the 80s. For example, I showed him Miami Vice, and I said, you got to see, this is the coolest show ever, Miami Vice. Let's watch it. And we watch about 15 minutes of it, and they're like looking at me like, Dad, this is the hokiest thing I've ever seen. You know what? The sophistication of people today. I've got when I was 25 years old, I thought Miami Vice was the coolest thing since sliced bread. My kids at 13 think it's the hokiest thing in the world. They're that much more sophisticated now. They've been exposed to that much more stuff now than I was when I was 25 years old. What used to work no longer works. People can see sales coming from a mile away. We have to flush our sales training down the tubes and instead focus on communicating. Because will communicating ever go away, guys? Will people who are expert communicators, will that ever go away? No, because when you're an expert communicator, you're not using techniques to manipulate people. You are understanding people and helping them understand what's going on. So we've got a question here. What internal signals can we be aware of so we catch ourselves? Well, that's a great question. What internal signals can we be aware of so we catch ourselves? For most of the guys that have known me for a while, you will know that I have a hair trigger temper. I mean, and you will know that I love to debate. I always have to be right. I scream and holler till somebody agrees that I'm right. Everything in my nature is against what I'm teaching you to do here. That's the 5-minute drill. So what is the signal? Well, for me, it's my blood pressure rise. I mean, when they say something, you have to understand what your physicality is when somebody says something you don't like. But the best way to do this, the best way to learn the signals is to listen to tapes. like we just did here. Do you think this guy, if I asked him if there was any opportunities for him to, or where if he argued with the client at all, do you think this guy would have said that he'd argued with the client? No. See, tapes don't lie. Once you've been, I guess, quote unquote, enlightened by listening to a few of your tapes, guess how much better you get at catching the signals of getting argumentative instead of on their side. It's the tapes, it's the tapes, it's the tapes, it's the tapes. That tapes don't lie. That's what gets you focused into those signals where you're getting off track. And guys, I got off track constantly, but you're right, Jay. I would then recognize, boom, I'm getting off track. I'm arguing, and quickly, within one sentence, get right back on their side and mend that fence before it got too destroyed. So 5-minute drill, guys. Tape your meetings. Even if you don't send them to us, listen to them yourself and look to see if you're getting on people's side or not. Are you getting argumentative with people? Are you trying to, quote unquote, teach people? You cannot do that. So you guys like calls like this where we dissect the tape or dissect parts of the meetings? Good. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys very much. You have a fantastic rest of the week, and if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. And if you have not contacted the mailing house yet, you need to this week contact that mailing house. You're going to miss your September event dates. Do not miss those September event dates, guys. September, October are the only 2 months you can mark it in the fall. Can't mark it in November, December. Those are the lousy months. So if you have not contacted the mailing house yet, please contact them today. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. If you need anything, give us a holler. Bye-bye.